Hey, what's up everybody? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another video. I know it's been a while, sorry. Here I am though. So let's just kind of jump in, just throw some of the stuff I've been listening to. Actually, like I said in my last few videos, most of what I've been listening to is CD lately. Just because it's a 35-minute drive on the way to work, and on the way home it's anywhere from an hour to 2 hours depending on traffic. So I've been going through the whole CD collection, just spinning all kinds of stuff. And I'll do some what's spinning videos too, because I got some cool CD stuff to show. But when I've been home, I've been spinning vinyl. And hopefully I'll start doing more videos soon. The middle of August, I start working from home. So I'll be spinning a lot more vinyl, and we'll have a lot more time to do videos. So no promises, but that's the plan. So let's just kind of jump into some of the stuff I've been spinning recently. Finally gave this a spin. I bought this when it came, maybe a month or two after it came out. Finally got around to spinning it. It's a good show. Very much like the show that I saw a few years ago, last time I saw them live. Let's see, this was in November 2014. But this is Kiss Rocks Las Vegas. I mean, honestly, if I'm in the mood to listen to a Kiss live, I'll probably throw in a live 2. Just because that's my favorite, a live 1 as well, obviously. But still, cool listen. I never checked out the DVD. Next up, I ran across these next two for really cheap. I'm not usually a fan of buying comps unless it's the kind of artist that I really only like the hits from, and there's not a whole lot of those. But I ran across this for 10 bucks. It's a UK pressing, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, UK pressing on Raw. But this is The Devil's Carry On from Raven. I know it's kind of dark in here today. Let's see if I can get a little more light. That didn't really help, did it? That's a little bit more. It's kind of a dark cover though. You got the Scarecrow. I've always loved that cover. But the nice thing about this is it's basically their first 4 albums. The hits of their first 4s, which is my favorite period of Raven. Not to take away from some of their later albums, especially their most recent one. Their most recent album is great. I really dig it, and I recommend picking it up. But you know, those first 4 albums will always be the favorites. And then another one, I picked this up for 3 or 4 bucks. Otherwise, I would have passed up on this too. But this is Midnight Highway from Accept. I'm a huge Accept fan. Another band whose last few albums have been absolutely phenomenal. I actually haven't checked out their most recent. I don't know why I'm slacking on that. But the album prior to that is probably one of my 3 or 4 all-time favorite Accept albums, which is saying a lot because I love the early Accept. But just like the Raven, this is basically, I think this was 82 or 83 when this came out. Yeah, 83. And I believe this came out before Balls to the Wall. So their first 4 albums before that are covered here. But I mean, you got Breaker, Hell Driver, China Lady, That's Rock and Roll, I'm a Rebel, Midnight Highway. I mean, some of their biggest hits from that period. And just a fun listen. Next up, this one I'm really digging. I've given this 3 or 4 spins so far. I need to buy their full-length album as well. This is the EP that they put out. It was somebody on the VC that turned me on to these guys, and I ended up buying it and really digging it. I think it's a little overpriced for an EP. I think it was like 16 bucks. It may have been 15 or 16 regardless. It should have been 10 or 11 bucks. But this is Black Smoke Rising from Greta Van Fleet. And I was looking, so far in 2018, this is the 3rd best-selling hard rock or heavy metal album. This is actually outselling the new Judas Priest, which blows. Actually, I'm not surprised because this is kind of a crossover. This will hit people in multiple genres, but the singer definitely has their whole sound. Their as a whole has kind of a Led Zeppelin feel to it. It's not just Led Zeppelin. I think they're kind of getting pigeonholed by that. But the singer definitely has that sound. The musicianship is not near as good as Led Zeppelin, but, you know, and that's why I don't really like that comparison. And actually, the more of their songs that you listen to, the less you start hearing. But it definitely gives you that new wave of traditional heavy metal vibe, because there were quite a few bands from that period that were that had kind of that Led Zeppelin feel, but that weren't quite hard rock. They were more towards the 70s style hard rock. And that's kind of what I get from these guys. And these guys would have fit in really well during that period. Really good album, though. Check out the videos. Highway Tune is probably their most Zeppelin sounding song, and that's the one that's getting the most traction for them. I said this one is the best selling. I actually think it's their full length is the third best selling album so far this year. And they're not just basing that on albums that were released this year, because Metallica is still #1 for 2018. It's still the best-selling album of 2018 in hard rock and heavy metal, and that was released that obviously wasn't released in 2018. So next up, this one kind of shocked me, and what shocked me even more is how much I liked it, because I don't generally like AOR. There's some that I like here and there. There's certain bands that do that have an originality that I dig. I really dug this. So this is Di'Anno, and I believe he released this right after. So this is '84. This was the first thing he released after leaving, or after being replaced in Iron Maiden. I don't remember what the story was behind him leaving, or his departure. However, this is more of an AOR sounding album, but man, it's really good. I spun this 3 or 4 times. Like I said, I was shocked to hear AOR, because Di'Anno has kind of stuck with that early Iron Maiden sound. Like if you listen to Battlezone, you definitely hear that. That's kind of the direction I felt that Iron Maiden would have gone with him in there. And I love his vocals, you know. But this is a great album, and I highly recommend checking this one out. Next up, I mean, this is just a band that you can't go wrong with. This is Leave No Star Unturned by Hawkwind. This was released in 2010 or 11, I think. Let's see if it says. I can't remember. This was the promo version. It really doesn't do anything to the value, but it is a live show from 1972. Obviously, Lemmy was in the band at that point. But I love the way it's got kind of this bootleg feel to it. But it is an official release from the band. And then it's on this, I don't know how, yeah, you can see it pretty good. It's on this blue vinyl. I love this song. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. We're listening to this. This is High Spirits. I've talked about High Spirits. It's one of my favorite of the new wave of traditional metal bands. Chris Black, the guy's a genius. I love everything that he's released from his multiple bands. But this is official bootleg, and it definitely sounds like it's got a bootleg feel to it, a sound to it. I really dig it, though. I've seen these guys live twice now, and I love their live show. Anyway, back to the Hawkwind. Like I said, it's got kind of this bootleg feel to it, but it is an official release. And the live versions of oh, I can't think of the name. I can't remember which song it was now. There's one song on here that really blew me away, and it's been a few weeks since I listened to it, so I can't really remember. Silver Machine is on here. I think Silver Machine, if I remember correctly, is the only hit that they've had that charted, and I don't believe it was ever released on an album. I think it was only released as a B-side, and then on these live albums. But really cool. Highly recommend picking this one up if you run across it. Hawkwind is just definitely one of those bands that has that really, the live sound is just, you know, I would love to have seen them back in the day at their live shows, because they were kind of famous back then for their live sets. Next up, actually, speaking of Paul Di'Anno, this is Battlezone, Fighting Back. This was, I can't remember if this is his first or second Battlezone album. I've got the other one too, though. Battlezone is great. I don't know why these never picked up traction. Anybody that liked those first, especially that first Iron Maiden album, should love this. I mean, he just kept going in that same direction that Maiden was going, and it's really killer metal, and I can't recommend this enough. Definitely kind of a must-have. This is an original pressing on Shrapnel. This isn't a repress. Oh, I'm sorry, on Shatter Records. That does kind of look like the Shrapnel logo. Maybe they did that on purpose. Next up, another Raven. Just an absolute classic. Life's a Bitch. I grabbed this because it was $8 or $9, and it's a promo copy. And it's actually funny. I bought this one, and then just recently, I'm not sure where it's at, I found a promo copy that's in really nice condition. So this one will probably go up for trade or sell or VCLT or something along those lines. I've been on kind of a Raven kick. I've probably got 5 or 6 Raven albums around here in the stacks that I've listened to in the last month or so. Next up, this is one that kind of disappointed me. This is Blackjack from Worlds Apart. If you're not familiar with Blackjack, Blackjack was Michael Bolton's first band. When it was 70s hard rock. It started out as, when was this one? 80? Yeah, this was 1980. This is the second one. But this is also the introduction of Bruce Kulick, who, man, look at that. How about that mustache, Aaron? And the afro. But oh, actually, the mustache there is even better. Wow. Who is that? Jimmy Haslett. But I was pretty disappointed with this. The guitar work is on here, is really good. You can definitely tell it's Bruce Kulick. It's more of an AOR. I thought the first album was much better. Not one that I would recommend to anybody at all. Next up, one I would highly recommend picking up. This album is just killer. I think if these guys came out 3 or 4 years earlier, this is a band that everybody would know because they were that good. They definitely could have fit in with the mainstream very well. But this is Last Train from Holy Soldier. And I showed this before when I first got it, but I pulled it out and gave it a couple more spins. They're just such a great band, especially the first 2 albums. Do I have the other one here? The third album, they kind of tried to go the alternative route. It was 93 or 94 when they recorded that one. It's just not them. But this album's phenomenal. This is one that Scott worked on. He worked really hard on the cover for this one. I saw 3 or 4 variations as he was working on it. And he did a great job getting this to come out. I actually, and we talked about this, you can kind of see it in the background here, and you can see it on the center labels, and he decided to put the Japanese script here. There was a Japanese pressing of this that was really, I actually liked the, it's hard to see here, but I liked the Japanese cover better. But it came out on this really cool red marbled vinyl. Sounds phenomenal, really killer melodic metal, melodic hard rock. Their musicianship is amazing. Again, had they come out, this was 92, I believe. It doesn't say it on here, does it? Yeah, 1992 when this first came out. Had this come out in 88 or 89, I think it would have been huge. And it was a big album within the Christian community. But this is one that could have been up there with Stryper. Next up, just a classic. I found another copy of this, so I went ahead and grabbed it. One I always love. I really wish I would have gone to see them. They played here 6 or 7 months ago. I wanted to go see them and get this signed, and stuff just came up, and I couldn't make it. But this is Captain Beyond, just classic 70s hard rock from 72, I think. Yeah, good 72. Next up, I don't know if I've ever shown this one before. I've had this one for quite some time. Just felt like giving it a spin again. I've got this on CD too, but this is the Lost Tracks of Danzig. This one's really hard to find on vinyl, and this is actually a signed copy as well. I'm a huge Danzig fan. I really wish he would release his discography. so that I don't have to either pay $120 or is this the code? No. Or buy bootlegs. You know, I think all of my Danzig, my first 4 Danzig albums are all bootlegs. And even his later release, he releases them once and that's it. Yeah, you know, so like Circle of Snakes is a great album. It was only released on picture disc, and you're gonna pay like $150 for it, you know. So I'd really like to see him release everything. But even this goes for $50 or $60, and I found it for a really good price quite some time ago. I found it for like $30. I just don't think they knew what they had. It was a special order deal where you could order it from Danzig signed. Just really cool, and I'm really happy to have this in the collection. And basically what this is leftover tracks and outtakes, basically from the first 5 years. And there's some great stuff in here. Some of it I understand why I didn't make it on there, because the stuff on the album was really good. But that's not to take away from any of these. And there's still a few songs in here that were released as B-sides or released as EPs later that he still does in his live set. So it's cool. And so there's a couple alternative takes here too. But it's just kind of a B-sides and everything else type of album. And definitely worth having if you're a Danzig fan. Next up, I thought this one was okay. You know, I hear a lot of hype about this. It's definitely got a weird cover with the monkey demon. You probably already know what I'm talking about. But this is Abominog from Uriah Heep. And I kind of feel that they were going for that new wave of traditional heavy metal feel on this. Personally, it's got some cool stuff on here, especially the heavier stuff. The songs where they were going more for the hard rock metal sound as opposed to the AOR sound, I like. The AOR stuff I could kind of live without. So, like I said, I'm kind of split on this album. I kind of dig the cover as goofy as it looks. You know, it's literally a chimp superimposed over a demon. It's kind of the cover of Nightmares, and it's got some cheesiness too. I mean, if you look at the drawing of the horns, it's pretty cheesy. And this is 1982, yeah. But I mean, you got Bob Daisley on here. It's good. It's good. I still prefer the first 4 albums from them, and always will. But that's still a cool listen from time to time. And we'll finish up with this last one here. I'm finally giving these guys a chance. So what happened with this band? They're a hometown band. They're from Phoenix, Arizona. Their first album's an absolute classic in the heavy metal community, the thrash community, the speed metal community. It kind of incorporates all of those. The power metal, the U.S. power metal community. And then from their second album on, a lot of people just don't like them, you know. And the reason I didn't get into them, I liked their first album. I've always kind of dug that. But then I saw them in '94, and it was just not a good show. Which surprised. It was their hometown show. It was the first show of the tour, and it was Megadeth, this band. So the first band of the night was Fear Factory. Fear Factory was just coming out. This was '95, followed by Korn. It was their first major tour for Korn. Their first album had just come out. Then this band came on, and then Flotsam and Jetsam came on. I was so unimpressed with this band that I went all the way in the back. It was a big amphitheater, a huge amphitheater, and it's still my favorite place to. It's my all-time favorite place to see concerts. It's closed now, unfortunately. But my girlfriend and I went all the way in the back, laid on the grass, and I took a nap on her stomach until right before Megadeth came on, and then we fought our way to the front to be there for Megadeth. But the band is Flotsam and Jetsam. So what kind of happened is 3 or 4 years ago, I picked up, and I can't remember the name of the album off the top of my head, but the album that they were touring for in '95, I ran across it for like $1 somewhere. So I was like, what the hell? I grabbed it, and I dug it. So as I found their other albums, I'm actually really kind of getting into the band now. So I finally ran across this in good condition. This is No Place for Disgrace, the second album from Flotsam and Jetsam, and this album is great. Definitely not thrash, but you get some speed in here. It's more straight up heavy metal. And I really dig it. I'm really surprised how much I dig it. I wish I would have checked this out back in 91, you know. But it's just a great album, and one that I highly recommend picking up. I love this artwork too. You've got the big old buff dude, kind of. It's like a cross between Conan and traditional Japanese stylings. You know, the Japanese have never shown themselves being big buff monsters like this, so it's kind of a cool juxtaposition. But you've basically got the buff samurai looking guy committing seppuku, and then the guy behind him ready to chop off his head to make the death go instant. So that's it, guys. This actually went a lot longer than I expected it to, but good to make another video. I hope to see your comments. I hope everybody's doing good, and take care, VC.